You may have heard people say that Jesus is just a figure for the Christians and only is documented in the eyewitness testimonies compiled in the New Testament of the Bible. But Jesus is a historical figure acknowledged by different non-Christian sources within 150 years of his life. Hey, welcome back to another FTD Facts episode. My name is Leroy Kenton, and in this episode, we're going to be learning about 10 surprising facts about Jesus from non-Christian sources. So definitely I want you guys to stick around until the end of this episode so you don't miss any information I'm going to share in this episode. Starting at number 10, Jesus performed miracles. Jesus had a reputation of being able to perform miracles. Psellus, who was a 2nd century Greek philosopher and a fierce opponent of Christianity, made several intellectual arguments on religion. Now, his first attack on Christianity was when he tried to resolve why Jesus was able to perform miracles in the first place. He was trying to explain the miracles of Jesus, and in doing so, he confirmed that, well, the miracles actually happened. Now, moving on to number 9, Jesus was known to be wise and pious. Jesus was quite famous for being very wise and very pious, or pretty much that word means very religious or holy. And Jewish historian Josephus reported this in his Antiquities of the Jews, where he said, "At this time there was a wise man named Jesus. His conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous. And many people from among the Jews and other nations became his disciples." From there, let's look at number 8. He was crucified under Pontius Pilate. One of the trusted historians of the ancient world, Cornelius Tacitus, he stated that Jesus was crucified under the rule of Pontius Pilate. For those who don't know, by the way, Cornelius Tacitus was a Roman orator and public official who was widely regarded as the most important Roman historian and prose stylist who wrote in the Latin language. Now, according to his notes in the pinnacle of Roman historical writing, he says this: "Christus, from whom the name had its origins, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus." Next up, at number 7, Jesus was known to have many disciples. Jesus had disciples from diverse religions and backgrounds, and according to Josephus, many people from among the Jews and the other nations became his disciples. Pilate had condemned him to be crucified and to die, but those who had become his disciples, well, they didn't abandon discipleship, and they stayed loyal to him until the very end. Number 6 brings us to this fact. His disciples believed that he actually resurrected. Christians widely believe that the disciples of Jesus saw him alive after he was crucified. His disciples testified about the resurrection of Jesus because they saw him alive on several different occasions. Josephus, when he was talking about the disciples' reaction to Jesus' death, said this, and I quote, "Jesus' disciples reported that he had appeared to them 3 days after his crucifixion, and that he was alive." So yeah, you see, this is definitely a surprising statement coming from a non-Christian source. The next fact to look at is that Jesus had a brother named James. So when we look into the New Testament of the Bible, according to the Gospels, Jesus had several brothers and sisters, but only James and Jude were mentioned in the New Testament. James was described as a leader of the early church in Jerusalem, and in recounting the stoning of James, Josephus records these words: "So he assembled the Sanhedrin of judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus who was called Christ, whose name was James, and some others. And when he had formed an accusation against them as breakers of the law, he delivered them to be stoned." So this statement here supports the fact that James was the brother of Jesus. Number 4 leads us to darkness and earthquakes during the resurrection. This is another surprising fact from a non-Christian source that states that the crucifixion of Jesus was followed by darkness and an earthquake. This was stated by a Samaritan historian named Thallus, who was alive at the time that Jesus was, around AD 5 to 60, and he wrote a 3-volume history of the 1st century Mediterranean world, which unfortunately no longer exists. But before his his writings were lost, he was cited by another ancient historian, Julius Africanus, in AD 221. Africanus described Thales' account of what happened during Jesus' crucifixion, and it goes as follows. I quote, "On the whole world there pressed a most fearful darkness, and the rocks were rent by an earthquake, and many places in Judea and other districts were thrown down." Jesus also lived under Tiberius Caesar. Tiberius was the second emperor of Rome after Augustus, and he remained the emperor during the life of Jesus. It is not confirmed, however, whether or not Tiberius knew about Jesus or heard about his crucifixion. Now, the word about Jesus and his miracles, it spread quickly through the land, even to the imperial palace. But Tiberius had retired to his palace on the island of Capri in 26 AD. Now, Julius Africanus reported that another ancient historian, Phlegon, confirmed the darkness at the time of Jesus' death and that Jesus was alive in the time of Tiberius Caesar. Now, Phlegon records that in the time of Tiberius Caesar, at full moon, there was a full eclipse of the sun from the 6th hour to the 9th. Continuing this episode, at number 2, his disciples believed he was God. While Jesus was known as the Son of God, well, some people regarded him as God in human flesh. Lucian of Samosata, who was a 2nd century Greek satire writer, confirmed some details about the Christians, and he said this in his work. "The Christians, worship a man to this day, the distinguished personage who introduced their novel rites and was crucified on that account. It was impressed on them by their original lawgiver that they are all brothers from the moment they are converted and deny the gods of Greece and worship the crucified sage and live after his laws." That crucified sage, by the way, is in reference to Jesus. Alright, coming down to the end of this episode, at number 1, his disciples were willing to suffer. The disciples of Jesus were ready to suffer and to die for their beliefs. Not much information is available about the fate of the 12 main disciples of Jesus, but some hint is available in the New Testament as well as the apocryphal texts and the early Christian historians. Now, according to the sources, Simon Peter was eventually martyred in Rome during the reign of Emperor Nero. Bartholomew preached in several cities, including India, where he translated the Gospel of Matthew for the believers there. Now, on one account, impatient idolaters, they beat the disciple Bartholomew and then crucified him. Now, in another account, they actually skinned him alive and then beheaded him. Now, this makes it evident that the disciples of Jesus, outside of Judas, who hanged himself, as it's recorded in the Bible, were firm on their beliefs and they were ready to give up their lives for their beliefs. And just like that, we made it to the end of another FTD Facts episode. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. As well, I want to hear your thoughts and comments down below. Now, if it's your first time stumbling across the channel, you guys know what to do already. Subscribe and ring the bell. That way you won't miss any new episodes like this. Thanks for hanging out with me in another episode, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one.